with what time it is, why don't we go ahead and call the meeting to order? That way we can get started. So especially if she has to leave a little bit early. Oh, here she is. Oh, wait, let her pop in. She's here. Maybe it's just her video turned off. Morning, Kara. Well, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. I know we have introductions on there as the first thing. Do we just want to go through and everybody introduce themselves? Is that what we're thinking there?
Yeah, we can certainly do it. Why don't I start, Mike, since this is
That's what I was going to say, Eric. I think you should start. You're the one taking over for Mara's role, and so go ahead.
Absolutely. So, Eric Peterson, I'm the assistant city manager. I've joined a couple of your meetings. We have made some structural changes in terms of staffing here at City Hall to better align folks with their duties, but also Mara Perry seems to get every board and commission that no one's quite sure where it goes. And so I looked at things, and part of my background and my history, my career is working with economic development, with downtown and business climate issues, specifically in Milwaukee County and in Flagstaff, Arizona, before I came here. So I am looking forward to being your staff liaison, as well as the staff liaison to the 3 business districts as well. So you'll start to see, if Fran is still here, all those things are still there. What Mara did to coordinate and to help move your program along and manage your budget and such, that will be me. Mara will still be involved in issues that are questions of permitting, planning, and zoning issues. But please turn to me if you have any things. And then my colleague Jennifer Starkey, who joined us today, is our public affairs director, and I asked her to be here to talk about the city website update when we get to that space. So I'll turn it to Jenny to introduce herself. Like, I know you all know so well.
Hello. Yes, hi, I'm Jenny Starkey. I think CC is the only one that I haven't met before, but I was on the BDC, of course, for a while before getting hired at the City Hall. So I'm excited to tell you about some of the website changes we're going to be doing ahead. So I'll move on.
Right, good deal. Well, I would say I think everybody else knows each other, and I know you guys are familiar with most of us too. And so why don't we go ahead and approve the last month's minutes? And so did you guys get a chance to review? Do we have a motion to approve?
A motion to approve.
Thanks, Rebecca. Do we have a second? I'll second. Tim? Okay. Good deal. All in favor of approving the minutes then? Okay. All right, good deal. So, so as far as on the old business, I know we've been talking about the working group recommendations recap for a little while here. I had some good headway on, on last month as far as I know we were talking about the scavenger hunt and putting something like that together for the fall. I didn't really expect any updates on that this month. Cece, I know you said you're busy. You've got everything going on with the daughters. Right. So does anybody else have anything that they want to put in on, on the group? Or maybe Cece, could you give a quick recap on, what we were talking about last month there as far as working on and putting together for a couple of people that weren't here at last month's meeting?
Sure. So the idea is to draw a more broad appeal to the Webster Groves business districts. And the idea was a scavenger hunt. The more I think about it, there's a lot to consider in terms of the approach and in terms of how to deal with it. And, maybe thematically you start with a category of businesses and you go to different categories, for example. But I really haven't been able to put a lot of time into it, and I told you I wouldn't. So. But I am pondering the fact that it's more dimensional than I even imagined, but that's okay. It'll be great when it gets worked out and figured out, and we'll, more to come on that. Hopefully at the next meeting, at least some sort of framework, if I don't end up on jury duty for a month.
Good deal. So, well, and I think that was pretty much the the key takeaway from the working group last month. And so I don't have anything else to add. Does anybody else have anything else to add on that, or should we jump into the website update?
Website, here you go.
Let's do it, Jenny. Let's hear about the website.
You're muted, Jenny.
I'm going to share my screen just so you guys can see. We are up for a website redesign. So do you see the what we have currently for Explore Webster right now on the screen? Can everybody see that? Okay. So that's what we currently have for the website. The overall webstergroves.org website is going to start with a redesign in September, and it's probably going to be about a year process, but I think it's going to be a lot more simple and kind of user-friendly, maybe not so many things on the front page to click from. But one of the things that we started looking at is what can we do with these more kind of consumer-focused pages that we have, specifically Explore Webster and the Parks and Rec department. So right now, if somebody were to go to Explore Webster, this is what they come to. So it's not terribly robust. There's not a lot of options. And when you click on things, it's very much, you just go to this directory, schools, you go to a PDF. It's not terribly exciting as to what they can do. So we talked to Civic Plus, which is the company that does our website, to see what kind of options do they have that could create a better looking website and give a few more options to people. And they have landing pages. So what that is if can you see right here where it says visiting historic Defuniak Springs? Okay, so that is housed within the Defuniak Springs website, but we can create kind of, it almost looks like a standalone website within webstergroves.org, so that people could go to webstergroves.org/explore Webster, or even explorewebster.com, I believe is a domain that we have, and go to a page that's like this. This is something that they've set up for another city that's more of a convention and visitors thing, but as you can see, they've got similar things to what we have. They've got a holiday section that has all the different holiday things that they have, their historic tours. That would be something like Jazz Festival and different things like that we have. So there's a bunch of different, but it looks just a little bit more user-friendly and a little bit more interesting. I know with the Business Development Commission in Webster Groves, it kind of toes the line between business development and also convention and visitors thing. So that was a convention and visitors site. Other things that they've done in the more business development realm are things that look like this. I think our BDC site will kind of toe the line between the two of them, because we're not completely business development, like we don't want all the business permits and things like that on the site. But I think that there is a way that if somebody, wanted to start a new business, they could start the process on the Explore Webster site and then find out everything else that Webster Groves has to offer. But these other sites that I'm clicking on, they're all other city sites that are operated by Civic Plus, which is the company that does our website. So you can kind of just see the different options that are available, but that they all very much look like standalone websites and are a lot more interesting and visually exciting to look at than what we have currently. And so there's, just for curiosity's sake, I know I mentioned Parks and Rec, and this is kind of what we were thinking for our own Parks and Rec department. So they would have their own kind of standalone page that people could rent things online, find out about joining the gym, find out about our camps and different things like that. And they'd all be housed within webstergroves.org. So that would mean that we're not working with another outside design company. We're not dealing with a bunch of different domains that are controlled by their other companies. So it kind of keeps the security of just knowing that our IT person and Civic Plus is behind it all. So that's what we're thinking of. Does anybody have any questions or directions or anything like that they'd want to go in? I mean, of course, as we get moving on it, we would have input and involvement from this group. I just kind of wanted to let you know early stages of what we were thinking.
Thank you.
I definitely like the aesthetics of what we're seeing there a lot better than the current Explore Webster Groves page. So I think it's easier to find. I mean, there's so much on that Explore Webster page. It's just, where is it? It's like my company's internet page. It's all there, but you have no idea where it is. You have to search. That's
I said that the website right now kind of feels like when you're at on a college campus and there's a giant bulletin board that's got a bunch of flyers and people just keep putting more and more flyers on top of other flyers. And it's just like all the useful information is there, but it's so hard to find because it's not organized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mike,
So Jenny, one of the things the working group did early on, and this seems like it was so long ago now, But the first sort of round of recommendations was about the searchability of the business directories. And I know Jennifer Conrad got the memo because I provided to her about some of those requests. I don't know, I can send that to you as well. And I know some of them will be a function of the technology, but it, you know, that commission spent a lot of, or that working group spent a lot of time trying to think through how to tag things and organize businesses. So I'll send that to you.
I like the way that this is organized as a consumer directed site, because as I have often looked at city websites, I find that they are really lacking that way. They tend to be pretty much about somebody moving to town and where the resources might be, or the businesses starting, or the description of the mayor, or things like that. They're, you know, the waste management information. And of course, I'm there trying to find out what there is to do in that town I'm going to, for instance. And so I really value the fact that this has more of a consumer front to it, so people can, you know, participate more in what's going on in the life of Webster.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when we look at the search, what people are searching for when they come to our website, like it's definitely seasonal, but you know, like of course from May and June, it was Camp WeBG, aquatic center hours, different, you know, it's like, what are people concerned about? Is it, you know, sadly, it's not the agendas and minutes, all the meetings. What time does the pool open and how much does it cost for me to be a member was kind of overwhelmingly. So I think if there's just different ways to get that info to them that looks a little bit better, I think that'll be good.
Before it goes live, you said you'll be able to come to us with some, you know, to get additional input and everything. So we'll be able to see.
Yes, and provide feedback on what the options would be, like how, you know, what do we want these things to be? What do we want the look to be? You know, and if it's a matter of, we've had photographers in the past that have gone through and taken photos of the city, especially the business districts. So we have very nice professional photos to kind of put in that slideshow. And I think that that's something that we'll probably have to do again, because some of the photos that we've gotten, even from 2017, you know, I would feel weird using some of those because some of those businesses have closed.
Sure.
So yeah, you know, like, right, you know, it's like, it's always one of those things that if you know the city, you know, like there's a few photos that pop up sometimes on the website that have farmers market banners. And I'm like, that we haven't had a farmers market in years. So I think updating photos will be a big part, but then also just what are the things that we specifically want to highlight? You know, is it the City of the Arts things? Is it our holiday, Webster Wonderland information, that kind of stuff?
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just briefly, we did, you know, when I first came on a couple months back, we had some great conversation about the business directory and architects who don't have the word architect in their name, you know, and how do they find. We are also, as we look at things here at City Hall, working with planning and development to understand, not just understand, but to learn about their system called Magnet, which is doing the permitting and all this data point is in. And then how we can tag it for marketing use. Of course, that's not planning and development's world at all, to, you know, think of things from a marketing perspective. So to be able to categorize businesses in a way, you know, that the neighborhood grocery, that is also a pharmacy, you know, how is that marked as such, and along those ways. I think the other thing I would add is that, and Jenny said this in a way, but our website has a tendency to become a bulletin board that turned into a filing cabinet, that it is the archiving center for all these things. And a website should not be that. A website should not be, you know, here's our event from 4 years ago. When it's not timely anymore, your website loses credibility really quick. So you want to take down, you know, things. Now, obviously, there are historical records that may need to be up for many years. We know that in government, but my point is that we need to be on top of that and continually keeping it fresh and as most accurate as we can. So that's a major piece of this redesign and some of what will govern our content as we look ahead.
Because we're even seeing it when we look at, you know, of course, Civic Plus had sent us a whole bunch of examples of websites, and like just even looking at other cities, there's a definite simplicity now that I think is way more impactful than that kind of kitchen sink aspects that, was more popular even just 5 years ago, of just kind of throwing everything up there and hoping people find what they're looking for.
I have a question.
Mhm.
When people search for Webster Groves, let's say on Google, and they click on the City of Webster Groves link, will they, and you said it was a landing page, so will they end up on a page similar to the one that you're displaying now? Or will they have to click once more to get to an Explore Webster type of page?
They will probably click on something like what I have right here. This is Greenville, South Carolina's, but we would then probably be able to highlight in one of these major options right there on the main page, Explore Webster, Parks and Rec, just those things that we know that people are looking for, so they won't have to search like restaurants in the area. They could just boom, go there and then find the stuff that they're looking for a little bit more easily.
Okay. Thank you.
Or Bob, I would not be surprised if this site, the Explore site, is used more than the city site. It may actually appear as the, that direct link may actually appear first in searches.
Right. That's why I was asking, is because, our experience has been, if we want to find something around town, we Google City Webster Groves, we click on that link, and then it's like, okay, where do we go now? So having all the government agendas and all the wonderful stuff that all the commissions do is important, and the agenda and the minutes and having all those things available are so essential to us knowing what's going on in our city. But in the moment, it's like, this isn't what I'm looking for. Can this just not be here?
Yeah,
Awesome.
I agree.
Very exciting.
Deal. Jenny, what's the time frame on updates moving forward on everything?
It will, we're gonna have a kickoff meeting with them in September. So at September, we're gonna get a better idea of the kind of month-to-month timeline of when they start things and when deadlines are due. So I should have a better idea at our kickoff meeting in September, but they said it's about an 18-month process to fully redesign the website, so.
Okay.
It'll of course be the whole webstergroves.org, and then also the 2 landing pages are all a part of that, so.
Jennifer, we'll be able to engage this group. and
Oh,
the-
absolutely. Like throughout the whole, yeah, I definitely, it won't be like, I talk with you guys now and then a year from now show you what's been done. Like, no, I definitely want input on all of the mapping and what we highlight and that sort of thing. The structure of it all.
Good deal. All right. Does anybody else have any questions or anything else on the website before we get into new business?
Nope.
All right. Thanks, Jenny. So this new business, Eric and I were talking about business involvement in civic spaces and events. And we've been talking about the event side of things with business for the last few months as part of the recommendations of the working group, as far as trying to be more inclusive, trying to bring more things together. We know, and we've brought it up a lot, there are a ton of events that Webster Arts does, that other organizations do, that are going on in Webster, that we just don't have any business presence at. And we were talking and brainstorming, and just to give an example, like, there's a concert in Glen Park last night, which was great, and a nice event, a free event. But if we could do something where we have like a round robin, where restaurants could come out and either deliver food or do a food truck, or there was retail, like a pop-up shop, potentially in the background, that people could shop at, whatever store ended up, being able to be there and have a pop-up shop while something like this is going on. We thought that would be a nice way to take what we already have and potentially bring in and add some revenue and some commerce and help the businesses out with some of these events. And so I know there's some challenges as far as, from a regulatory standpoint, I suppose, as far as just with rules and regs and stuff like that. But Eric said, with where he's came from, there's been, ways around and workarounds at that. Do you want to speak to that real quick, Eric?
Sure. So thanks, Mike. And really, as Mike and I had a cup of coffee, I thought about, because I didn't even know The City Arts Commission was hosting, until I saw it on Facebook, Glen Park concert. This was not the one last night, but a few weeks back. And that's a great activation of our public space. It's wonderful. It's a gathering of people. A gathering of people, to me, accounts for the potential for commerce economy and also exchange economy. Doesn't have to, but it allows for that potential. You have people, a dollar can move, which of course is one of the cruxes of any economic and business development, is the moving of money. And so this was a city function, meaning that the Arts Commission had put this concert together. And then from there, it just went out to the public, which is great. Is there the possibility to activate those spaces for food and other vendors as well? And I'm not saying every event needs that. Every event we don't run, but it was really Mike, is this something that the BDC is interested in that we can look at? Because I've seen it done. We're going to have an event and, food trucks are permitted for this time at this event, right? You don't need to go through the extra process as long as all your public health stuff is in place. It meant to, spur things. Could involve permitting, there's lots of different ways to go through this process, and I don't have all the answers because I don't know all of our code explicitly 2 months in, but I think there's a potential there for some events. Some events, big event. I was at Baroque last Friday night. It was a great event. That was not a city event. It was city sponsored in terms of funding went towards it, but it was hosted by another party. But in that, we get a lot of special activity permits that come. Some are within business districts, some are without. Is there potential that folks want to have a coalescing of people around them and other vendors or not? Sometimes it's not our decision. I was more trying to figure out a way, if this is doable with you all, that we look at processes to activate space if those events are going to happen, and if the event permittee is not opposed to such of those things. So we want to put that on the table because there are opportunities. That includes carryout. When I was in Madison, Wisconsin, they had concerts on the square at the state capitol, and it was every Wednesday night, 10,000 people listening to the Chamber Symphony Orchestra play, and every restaurant carried out to them. They had tables, and everyone had to bring their blankets, and you'd see waiters trying to find somebody over in this quadrant, and hand off, their carryout meal. Those types of physical space activities are doable, but it's a question: is that a desire from both the business community, but also from our perspective as advocates for them, and also as the permitting agency? So, I want to put it on the table and see what thoughts were.
I have a question for Eric. When you say food trucks, are you talking about people from the food truck community, or are you talking about restaurants within the Webster Business District that might want to?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. And food trucks are a great term to use because people think of mobile. Let me more say a food vendor. From my perspective, we can be, and I don't want to slant the word, but we can say protectionist and say we just want Webster community business owners. That's fine. We could say we want food trucks from across the region. We could say we don't care who it is as long as you have your public health stuff in line. That's a value that we would need to put into place and what we talk about in the process. My thought was really, if you're going to a nice, concert at Glen Park, would you like to have your meal while you're there? Or, instead of having to bring a picnic basket, do you want to have food delivered to you and prepared by somebody or such? Those kinds of functions and thoughts. I didn't intend it to be a massive overhaul of code, but really just a conversation about, is there a way to activate space and involve other people, right? I mean, we try to draw people to our business districts to make business happen, but is there a way to bring the business district to where people are drawn to?
Right.
May I make a comment on that? I just want to say that over the last 2 years, some of our major gatherings that I think would be space large enough to do that, like Glen Park is small, also the place where that Baroque dance was had no parking, but one of the biggest the biggest event is the Lions Carnival. So, I mean, that's an opportunity, except that the Lions Club wants to sell their barbecue, so they fundraise. But what is it called? It used to be called Art and Air, and I'm sorry, my mind just gets stuck on it. But the Arts Foundation has canceled their huge event on Eden the last 2 years. They just had the wrong timing for this year, but that would be the place where you want to draw in the business community, Eric. And also, the chamber has done a business-centric event called FunFest 63119 at the Lure Building on the Webster campus, Webster Eden campus, and we've canceled that for 2 years because of COVID. And that was a business-centric event where you could bring out people. So I love those ideas, but we're not Madison, right? Because we're not as big a town. I mean, if you compare the population, that's more like Forest Park. But there are opportunities and there are events that could be tapped in the future. I always thought Art and Air would be the place because you really get a huge draw there and there's space to do stuff like you're suggesting.
Let me follow up on what Rebecca said because I'm on the Webster Arts Board. Yeah, it's been a real disappointment because of county COVID regulations. We thought we.
I'm sorry, Pam. Can you turn up your volume? I can hardly hear you.
Oh, sure. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you better now, Pam. If you just lean in, it's probably.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just said I'm on the board at Webster Arts, and you know, it was a real disappointment this year, especially since we couldn't meet some of the county's regulations on COVID in order to run it a second year. But we've always worked pretty closely with the business community, not only for support, but in terms of the food, we've gotten both local and area-wide food truck participation. Serendipity is always there. We try to involve a lot of local restaurants in the food, and we do attract normally about 20,000 over a 3-day period. So it's a great venue. In fact, we're talking about some small mini exhibits in Gazebo Park during August, and we're trying to we want to cake pop in there and some of the other new stuff. Just for a much smaller group. So we'd be really happy for any other initiatives that would help us as we're going forward. And planning next year, we hope, to go back to our normal fare.
I mean, and the other option is there are a lot of 5K runs in Webster, and not just the Chamber's Santa Claus run, but also in front of the high school, the Crockett Run, and those are great venues where there's lots of people and you could promote the business district.
I have a question, and I am new. Do we have a budget for funding things, or do we just get people interested and then the organizations fund things?
As the Business Development Commission?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a budget, and I'm going to see if I can grab the chart here because I actually had this at hand the other day. So I'll pull it up in a second. But in reality, it wasn't built, I don't believe, and it wasn't necessarily built on the concept of, to be on the screen, sponsoring too much. So this is all the boards and commissions, and you'll see here these 3 that are BDC. So you have $6,900 for admin support, CVC membership at $925, and the holiday and media funding for holiday activities at $10.5. And then the other balance of funding that goes towards the Arts Commission out of the boards and commissions. Obviously, the business districts have funding that is relevant to their own tax stream that comes in.
Right, but for me, who's going to start thinking through a scavenger hunt with some sort of prize maybe or something related to it and promoting it, I'd kind of like to know if there's money that could be applied for to make something real.
Yeah, I think we probably need to go to the business or to the taxing districts to get more money. I mean, I don't know. Is there something there, Eric? I know in the past we've gotten creative to try and put a little bit out one place to another.
If it's a priority and the council agrees, we can always move money around to make those things happen. So it's the budget is just simply at the moment in time. So really February when they were put together, this budget, what was on the plan for the next year. that's fine. We'll figure it out, and we can help shake the trees. And I say the couch cushions always have nickels and dimes in government when you're looking for it.
Well, yeah, and Eric, I like where you're coming from in terms of thinking of citywide activities and things that piggyback onto them. And that makes me just wonder where, where the leadership and responsibility belongs then, right? If it becomes that this is our group that expands, the thinking that you brought forward in Madison, I love that kind of stuff, that people go out and spend their evenings. But whose job is it to put that together, and whose job is it to fund it, and whose job is it to make sure it's promoted? So,
and I'll just to be blunt, we have special activity permits that come in all the time. Mara handled those as well. So that's the art fest, the jazz fest, the parade. Obviously that's our city event, but Lions Carnival, that is a special activity permit. She'll be handling them through the balance of the year, and then they are coming to me as well. So that the basic function of I'm going to close my block for my street block party to I want to use all of Eden for a massive carnival will be sort of consolidated in this function here, so that we can inform you and the business districts and try to keep that cohesion around not just the regulatory and the safety concerns, but also what is the economic opportunity issues that can come out of these as well, and the possibilities for our business community to benefit. Some of these are not ours, like the Lions Carnival, not ours, right? I mean, so if we tried to force food trucks on with them, that's not a permitting issue. That's really a question with the Lions Club. I'm just using that as by way of an example. But some are ours, and I'm not trying to say Glen Park should have 8 food trucks parked around it for a very small concert, but I'm just using that as an example of it is something that we as the city have provided in a public space for a public event. Is there that potential? Something to explore. I think we don't need to say, yes, it has to happen. And certainly that would take some conversations with council as well. Not every event is right to say, let's please bring business in and try to monetize this event. So
it's a work in progress.
Go ahead, Cece.
It's a work in progress is what he basically said. And I like that too.
Yeah, I do think it's worth exploring, though. I mean, I think it's something that the events are already there, and so if there's a way that we can monetize, or we can, bring the business districts into the events that are already happening, I think that's a good thing. So I don't know what else where we need to go next with it. What do you think, Eric? As far as
I think
steps would be.
Well, and I'll foreshadow. Mike and I was talking. He was very curious about just the business permitting, both I want to open a new business, but also if I wanted to be Serendipity Ice Cream and suddenly show up in Gazebo Park, what does that take, right? What are those process points? So I'm going to start working with Mara to try to visualize and flow chart all of that, which sometimes almost seems like a never ending circle. But my point is that I think that's a piece of it, right? What are the ways that a business operates? But then what's that in that operation? What is the way that I'm going to do this? Not brick and mortar, but a pop-up event or sell off premise. How does that happen in these types of events? And with that,
another easy thing, and I guess this would be our council to figure this out, but those pull-up banners that are not, 3 feet by maybe 6 feet high, could say shop local. They could say different business district highlights on them. Take them to some of these things so that when people are hanging around listening to music, they're also being reminded that they can visit these places in their community.
I think that's an excellent idea. I mean, you could have one booth, shop local, and it could be like an information booth with brochures and what's available. I think that would be a very good thing to do.
But I'm not even thinking of something that has to be staffed. I'm thinking somebody just has to bring out those umbrella banners and put them there for the evening, and somebody has to take them down and put them back in the closet later.
That sounds good. It's real simple.
Well, and maybe this is something that you can provide, some sort of incentive or give preference to existing Webster businesses so they don't feel like they're being boxed out. I helped with the very like first inception of the food truck program in the city of St. Louis. And there was a lot of pushback from existing businesses feeling like, oh, well, these food trucks that don't pay rent, don't have any ties to the city are coming in. So anything you can do to, make the existing businesses feel like they're getting, first dibs or something like that would probably be helpful. But I do think that's a good way for, potential new restaurants to come in and kind of test out the Webster market and see if it's something that they'd want to explore on the brick and mortar side eventually too.
It's a good point, Kara.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kara.
Completely agree. I don't want, please, if anyone walks away though, I'm not trying to say we should just open everything up to food trucks. So that's just one piece of potentially you say.
Yeah.
Not want the restaurant
I've
owners
been
calling
there,
you
Eric, I get it.
There was a lot of pushback from local in Webster on the food trucks. It is a big issue.
Yeah.
And if we're going to, in my opinion, it should only be Webster businesses that we're talking about. There are 3 businesses in Webster Groves, brick and mortar businesses that have food trucks. And they don't even park their food truck on their location. They go only to a special event through the special activities permit. There is one citizen that owns a food truck, but she doesn't have a brick and mortar. And that's our food trucks for Webster, just so you know what we're talking about. The focus that Eric talked about as far as bringing in food and carry out, that's huge in Webster. And I think personally, that's where when we need to change the language and not make it food trucks.
100%.
In my opinion.
I feel like, when like last year, I know a lot of people use Toast Tab and, various other apps. I'm pulling my phone up like you can see it, but anyway, but yeah, you could have like, okay, if it's, I was going to use Olive and Oak as an example because I know they did some pop-up burger nights last year just to go, but all right, here's what the food is for the event, order it on our website, and then we'll come out and deliver it. Almost maybe more individualized catering rather than food truck as far as the phraseology, but give people an opportunity to order in advance. Restaurant could prep in advance, obviously know what they're selling, and then they can just bring it out there.
For the fair, the big art fair that we hope comes back next year, we used to try to do local, but some of them just couldn't handle 20,000 people or, a portion of that over 3 days. We had really good luck for a while with Mission Taco before they left town because it's a larger organization that of course has locations all over town. That worked for us really well. So sometimes it might be a combination depending on the audience of local and, regional, although I lean toward local too. I mean, I agree with Fran. I think that's important.
In spirit, I think that this is a fantastic idea to activate, like you said, other spaces, engage the people that are already here to help, I don't want to say monetize, but to help, let's say, get the word out about what our city has to offer in terms of businesses that are already here and what our city can offer to businesses that may be considering, like Kara said, businesses that may be considering locations. So I think this is an excellent idea to launch future discussions off of.
Deal. Yeah, so next steps, I guess, Eric, probably if you could look into what's the red tape was what my notes were, but just quick deal, we keep it on the agenda and go over it next meeting a little bit more. So does anybody else have anything to add before we move on?
I have a question in general. I know that Yorkshire Plaza is part of our business district area, but they seem so outside of the essence of our business districts that I'm not really sure what we do with it.
So Cece, just on that real quick, Yorkshire is obviously within the economy of the city, but they no longer have a business district or are included in a taxing district. in that space. So they are a commercial, not in the taxing district. So,
Well, it's one owner. It's
Right.
one property owner that owns all of that land.
Right, so it's private property.
Right.
It's commercial. And I think if it feels like the essence is out of touch, that's on us to, as a commission, to include them.
Well, that's my question, to include them or to not bother with them? And
I think you include them. We had Robin McNabb for a while on this commission, and then she dropped out. Perhaps because, you know, the emphasis is always on these three districts when there's businesses throughout Webster Groves.
I think you're going to have a hard time including them.
Yeah.
These are not your local mom and pop shops
Right.
like we have in Webster. These are Wingstop that comes in, and Supercuts and Auto Tire, and you know whatever it is over there. I mean,
It's the manager du jour, you know.
Yeah, they don't care so much to be a part of this. And as you said, you got one owner of the land, and if he's not interested in it, or she, I don't know who owns it. If they're not interested, I mean, we're not. There's no reason for us to battle to get them. I mean, it's hard enough to get the districts to be part of what we're trying to do, much less a non-district that has no interest or structure there.
I almost think it's a small enough area as far as when you talk about the 1 or 2 or 3 locally owned businesses that we could just reach out to those. I mean, we're not going to get a bank representative or Walgreens or anything like that to be open and involved. It's not Walgreens, CVS, right? But you know what I'm saying. So, but yeah, I agree with where you're at, Tim. I mean, I think we want to be inclusive where they want to be involved, but you know, if they're just chains that are not based out of Yorkshire, then I don't think they've wanted to be involved over the years.
Yeah, you know, we've had this discussion before about including Yorkshire, and my recollection is that our discussion kind of veered more into the aesthetics of that area along Watson, which no one is too excited about. And I don't know, that seems to be more of a citywide concern, I think, than maybe BDC. I'm just putting in a plug for somebody to consider that at some point, because nothing has changed along Watson.
Sure.
So, Mike, are we just doing new business at this point in time? Have you finished with the agenda? I mean, I had a couple of things I wanted to get in.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay, 2 things I wanted to share, and this is for Eric. Maplewood. I was recently in Maplewood for the Let Them Eat Art event, and it represents for me how dynamic the mix is of restaurant and retail in that area. And I think I'm probably the longest serving person on this commission now with Mara gone, but in times past we had talked about Maplewood, and we're actually saying, God, how did they get such great, unique food and restaurants in Maplewood, and why can't we do that in Webster? All right, that has been a topic of discussion that got dropped. But I just encourage you, Eric, as a new person to town, to check out the history of Maplewood's economic development. And if I can lead you to a few people over there, but they, as I understand it, they very specifically wanted certain businesses, a chocolate shop, a butcher, a pantry, little shops, and the city actually directed what kinds of business they brought in. And there is a trend sometimes in our Old Webster to bring in real estate agents, insurance agents, and not things that are boutique and shoppable. So I just encourage you to look into that history and see if you can connect with some of the people, if we can learn anything from that in your job. And the other thing is I wanted to just share with you, a person coming to town that is a big advocate for small business and independent bookstores. And the Novel Neighbor and the Chamber has partnered to bring in a speaker in August, Danny Kane from Kansas. From, I forget the small town, very important college town in Kansas. Anyway, Danny Kane.
Lawrence, Kansas?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Lawrence, Kansas. Danny Kane wrote a book about the importance of independent bookstores specifically, and he owns the Raven Bookstore in Lawrence. He is kind of on a campaign to resist Amazon, but it's a very important discussion, and we're going to have him at our chamber lunch on the 19th of August, and also the Novel Neighbor will have him in the store the night before, the 18th. So, if you can make one of these two events, I think it would be important to take a look at, how we can help our small independent businesses, not just bookstores. And we are so fortunate in this zip code to have 2 independent bookstores. And you'll notice many bookstores, even Barnes and Noble, are now gift stores rather than bookstores because they can make more margin in those businesses than in books because Amazon is undercutting and selling below cost. But anyway, I just wanted to share that and encourage everybody to go to one of those 2 events.
Good deal. Thanks, Rebecca. Business district updates. Eric, did they have meetings this last month? I was out of town.
Yes, we have meetings. So Crossroads met and they are working on their streetscape. That is the, I would say, topic agenda number 1 and the last thing on their agenda. It's i.e. it is that important to them. The county, of course, Big Bend is a county road. We've had a long history of trying to get this project moving. And I'll leave it to Councilwoman Arnold to opine on the meeting they had, but the Councilwoman and the mayor met with county officials. And I think we can call it a positive outlook for the future in terms of the counties coming back with some options between where we have been and where they would like to be. What do we see we can find in that old classic meet in the middle compromise and figure out how to get this done. Obviously for Crossroads, I think they would have loved to have this done 3 years ago. So, but it is in the budget for this year from the city's perspective to do that piece. And now it is really the county, given Big Bend's a county road. Old Orchard did meet as well. Had some good conversation. Fran, I cannot remember anything of major note from Old Orchard that to update this group on.
We talked about gazebo series,
That's
but
it. Thank you. I am not like Mara with my notes stacked up here. I'm just going to read through them. So please, if you are expecting that, Fran's minutes will be much shorter when it comes to my reports. So, but that's from the Business District Gazebo Series from the Old Orchard, and then Webster will be next week, Old Webster. So
okay, good deal. And then what about any city updates? Anything?
Lots of city updates for you. So first of all, I'm going to just quick share my screen again because Douglas Hill is moving forward. In terms of process. I don't want you to hear that as a moving forward with approval. So Douglas Hill, of course, is the redevelopment in the Old Webster area. This is the Douglas Hill page. You can find it right from the main page of the website. Planning and zoning hearings are going on. You'll find all the quick links you need right here as you see my mouse move. But I wanted to highlight the TIF Commission. TIF is tax incremental financing, which is an incentive way to do public infrastructure on the area that for the redevelopment. There is a TIF proposal included in Douglas Hill, so the TIF Commission will need to be constituted. Members have already been appointed by the county and the school district. We are looking for members for the city to appoint. You can read all about TIF funding, financing, and also click the button to apply if you're interested in applying. This is another commission. But it makes recommendations to the city council. You can find the functions, the taxing districts, the proposed redevelopment, the members that are appointed, then I'll be serving as staff liaison. So I wanted to highlight that. If you're interested, please do that by August 3rd, because the council will be considering nominations and people that are interested on August 3rd. So this is obviously will probably be, if approved, the largest redevelopment. It's certainly the largest proposal of its nature we've had in some time in recent history here in Webster Grove. So a big proposal to be deliberated on for the city. A couple other things, diversity, equity, and inclusion are underway, and we are going to be moving into some external focus groups in August. And so I am very curious from your group if anyone is interested in that focus group. This is not with the city. There's an outside consultant who leads a focus group to really understand not only internal city views currently and where things are at on diversity, equity, inclusion, but also our community's view of how the city government is responsive to that initiative and to those values. And so again, not with city staff sitting with you. This is a consultant who would talk through a focus group and really try to quantify that qualitative data of how we look at those values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we are sending a list of people in that they will select from. Again, we just send in a list of those that are interested. If you are interested in being a part of DEI focus groups in August, one night or one weekend, just one focus group that fits your schedule, please just shoot me a short email message. My email is petersone@webstergroves.org. So I'll stop it there because we've had a good meeting so far.
Good deal. Thanks, Eric. Laura, do you have any council updates real quick?
I'll just add a couple of things. Thanks, Eric. He covered, I think, the big items. Council meetings are scheduled to return in person on our meeting August 3rd. We will, however, keep the teleconference option available. I think that's a permanent feature now of our meeting. And thanks largely in part to Eric, we are going to be better equipped to do that from the council chamber. So hopefully everybody's experience, whether you're in the chamber or at home, will be a little better if you're going to follow our meetings. One of the things that we are considering also is multifamily housing in business districts. So even though you see that in our business districts, if you were to try to say, take the Subaru site and have first floor retail and a couple of floors of residential, you can't do that right now without your own planned commercial district. So we're trying to make that a little easier in these business districts. Please don't forget that we have an election on August 3rd. Those of us in Webster have two items on the ballot, Proposition 1, which is about duplexes in Webster Groves. And then also the St. Louis Community College has an issue on the ballot as well. If you have questions about Prop 1, give me a call, send me an email, and there's lots of information on the city website as well. I will echo also Eric's encouragement for you to consider applying to the TIF Commission. We need people who are just going to have Webster's best interest at heart and are equipped to examine the data. And I think everybody on this call is equipped to do that very, very well. So please do take a look at that. And then finally, Eric alluded to the Elm and Big Bend intersection. The mayor and I did participate with some county officials. Part of that is about the streetscape in Big Bend. A lot of it also is about the fact that Hickson is expanding. We're going to have more kids walking to school. That is not the safest intersection in town. And so we want to both look at how we can make it safer as well as just better travel for people who are visiting the business district. It was a really preliminary discussion. County Department of Streets is going to take a look at some options and come back to us to have a little more specific conversation, which we will definitely include the Crossroads Business District in, but we're just so preliminary right now. We'll have to wait and see when we can get some more specifics. And I think that's it for me as well.
Thanks for the update. Great meeting, everyone. Our next meeting is August 26th. Anybody know that they cannot attend or for the most part good?
Just Mike, one quick thing. So starting in August, as the councilwoman said, we'll go back to having in-person meetings. So we will have City Hall open for you at 8 o'clock that morning. However, Zoom will continue. So we'll be in our second floor conference room. We'll have coffee, and as a way of welcome back, we'll have some Webster Groves treats for you all if you wish to join us. But if you're on Zoom, that is fine. You'll be able to see and hear us. We may, because I have not been told yet if we will, may be requiring public meetings to wear a mask in City Hall, given the spike. We may, again, that news will come out next week if we are, so we'll let you know on your agenda if those requirements are in place. Okay?
Yeah, let us know. And then, quick quick recap, obviously the vote on August 3rd is important. TIP commission, the focus group on inclusion, and certainly Rebecca, the Danny Kane on the 18th at Novel Neighbor, and then the 19th at the Chamber Lunch. So a lot of good things going right now. Appreciate everything, guys, everyone. And let's go ahead and adjourn. So thanks so much.
Okay.
You'll have a great day, okay?
Thank you.